And we are back in stage 2. This is project 1. We're on page 45, create a basic graphics frame. And this should be very familiar to everyone that just finished the Illustrator course. We are going to draw a square. Now remember, you're going to pick up the frame tool. That's the one that's got the X in it. We use this in Illustrator, not the regular rectangle because that's a vector image. This is a placeholder. We are going to pick that up, and somewhere on the page we're going to hold down your shift key, click and drag, and create a rectangle that is 1 1/4 inch. I believe it's 1 1/4 inch in size. So keep an eye on and remember, if you don't get it exactly perfect, we can go back in and fix that, but there's 1 1/4 inches. Remember, you must release your mouse key before you release the shift, or you will no longer have a beautiful square. Once you release that, we are going to change positions of that. You can see that your property panel no longer shows the pages, but it shows the information on the image you drew. Select for a reference point the bottom left, and we are going to reposition this where the X field is at 1 inch and the Y field is going to be at 9 inches, and we'll have that perfectly aligned. We're going to clone this square. So with your selection tool, you are going to hold down your Alt key to get that double-headed arrow. Then you can click and drag to the right. We want to space this 1/8 of an inch away. You can rely on your rulers up at the top to get that lined up. 2.375 is what I should have on my cursor. Release the mouse button before you release the Alt key. We're going to again hold down the Alt key, click on the second square, and drag it to the right. This time you're going to see the gap thing come up, and it's going to show you that the spacing, looking at those little green marks at the bottom, are the same between the shapes. Then you can release when you see that little gap thing come up. The smart guides are showing you that you have equal spacing between those repeating objects. Another way we can do this is to keep that third square still selected. Go to Object, Transform, and select right below it Transform Again, which is going to repeat what we did. Another way we can do this is go Edit and Duplicate, and we just copied all of those off of the original one using different methods. With your selection tool, you're going to click to deselect all of those, and then you are going to drag a marquee across to touch. You don't have to select the whole things, just touch all 5 of those. Click the right center bounding box handle of the active selection. Press and hold the space bar and drag to the, click on that, press and hold, drag to the left. When you don't see any spaces between the 5 frames, you can release the mouse button, make sure they don't overlap. There you go. Look for equal spacing, then release the mouse button. As you drag, the space between the selected objects changes. The size of the objects themselves are not affected. This is called live distribution. If you click on that right center handle again, and without pressing the space bar, drag left until the cursor feedback gives you the width at 5.5 inches, you are changing the size of the boxes. They're no longer squares. 5.543249 went too far. Let me back that up. There. Dragging the handle itself resizes the entire piece, so we have just changed those from squares to little rectangles. Now that you have these resized, you're going to go to Object and group this. Then hold your Shift key down and pick up that green shape that we drew. The next thing we're going to do is open up your alignment panel. Now you have alignments in your properties. You can expand that out to show your options. You can also go to Window, to Object and Layout, and bring up the Align panel, but you're going to see that it's got all of the same options in there. So I'm going to use the one that's in the Property panel. Make sure that Align to Selection is active, and then we're going to do a Align Left Edge. Then we're going to also select to Align Bottom Edges. That's going to set all of the rectangles that we drew down into that bleed area. Then deselect by clicking off to the side, and then with the selection tool click the empty graphics frame on the right to select it. So we've got that grouping selected, and in the control panel you're going to change the stroke weight to 3 and give it a paper. So stroke is going to be paper, which actually puts it at white, because whatever color of the paper, it actually will not print any color there. It is not white, it is going to be paper color, and we're going to increase the size to 3 points. There, 3 points. Then you're going to save the file. We're going to be working again with that set of graphic frames. We are going to change these to rounded rectangles. We can do this a little bit different than we did in Illustrator. Illustrator, we would have used the live corners. In here, we're going to have one frame of this selected. So double click the one on the right. So we are just working with that frame, and I'm going to zoom that in so you can see that a little bit better. We're going to alt click the corner shape icon in the Properties panel. So we have all these different things available. We've got the fill, the stroke, the corner. So alt click corner, which is going to give us our corner options. Click the constrain to unchain the options. Then for the right corner, you're going to select it and select rounded from the options. For a size, type in, because I don't think it'll give it to you really easy, 0.45. Save that file. Again, we're going to try to take a look at working with design objects. We're going to look at editing live corners and working with InDesign objects and tips and tricks a little bit while we're in class. But read through this stuff because we may not get to that, just depends on class time. And then we'll be moving on to stage 3.